This is Terrence Andre Banks with Information Age Financial Solutions, coming to you from the article I read about Marcus Anthony. And I guess I'm talking about pensions again. This takes one of my favorite authors, Robert Kiyosaki's sound alarming. I think he has a new book coming out, The Pension Crisis and Just How Big It Is. And I've done so many videos because, again, I believe it's the biggest event of our lifetime and how it's going to affect so many of us who live in the States and actually across the world as well, because this pension problem is not only limited to the United States. It's limited to most of the places in the country because the population as a whole is aging. And we can't talk enough about this. I'm going to put a link inside the description, kind of dive right in. And I think he got a little excerpt here from his video. I'm going to play that a little bit as well. Your pension is being looted. Robert Kiyosaki says gold and silver will protect you from the coming pension crisis. Danielle Cambone recently caught up with the educational entrepreneur and real estate tycoon Robert Kiyosaki to discuss why central bankers are going to print an absurd amount of money to combat a global pension crisis as 2 billion old guys like me retire. That's just coming from his words. In an interview with Kitco News, Kiyosaki warns there's a massive shortfall of money for retirees. In America alone, the pension shortfall of defined benefit pension is estimated to be $9 to $17 trillion. This is just absurd. Kiyosaki goes on to explain how Wall Street and union leaders are stealing money right out of the pension funds of Teamsters, firefighters, and pilots. This is also explained in his new book, Who Stole My Pension? How You Could Stop the Looting. To make matters worse, the biggest stock market crash ever was crushed stock prices and shattered the retirement plans of millions. This crash will hit baby boomers particularly hard as they retire right as the chaos unfolds. The coming crash is going to make 2008 look like nothing. Kiyosaki notes this is all very good news for gold and silver investors since the Fed will have to print more money. Adding that if you become aware of how stealing your money, then you can do something different. The best way an average person can protect their retirement savings is to purchase what Kiyosaki calls gold money. Gold and silver were here when the earth was formed, and gold and silver will be here when we're all gone. Crypto will be gone too. I'll play a little excerpt of the video itself. As I'm always going to put a link inside the description. Let's see what we have to say a little bit.
America may be facing the most challenging economic crisis of all time, and it's not another recession, it's not a stock market crash, not a war, but a pension crisis. Joining me today is best-selling author of Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki. He's back with a brand new book, Who Stole My Pension and How Can You Stop the Looting? Discusses the most misunderstood and ignored cause of the pension crisis. Robert, I'm excited to have you back on. Welcome back.
Well, thank you. I love your program. You have the best information. I just love it. I really do.
Thank you. Well, we don't often get to talk about pensions, but according to your book, there are over 50 million pensioners in the U.S. alone. What are the impacts of a ballooning retiree population on the healthcare sector, as well as government pension expenses and their fiscal budgeting? These are all themes you examine in your new book, and you say, wake up, America, and face this crisis.
Well, it's more than America. It's a global crisis. I'll give you one quick stat. In the next 10 years, 2 billion old guys like me will retire. 2 billion, all over the world. And this is a global crisis. And the reason I'm buying gold and silver, I love silver because it's cheap, it's low price, but it's because the government, in my opinion, will have to print more money to cover this massive, massive, massive 2 billion people shortfall of no money. And in America alone, the pension shortfall for defined benefit pensions is estimated to be $9 to $17 trillion.
Right.
So print. Good for gold and silver, gold and silver.
Robert, I have to ask you, how did we get into this mess? And I know it's not an easy question to answer in a soundbite, but is it a lack of education on proper personal finance, on retirement management, or is it just people don't want to talk about pensions because it's not the most exciting thing to talk about?
Well, people are terrified to ask, I meet people with their 401k statements, they don't want to open the statement.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because they know somebody already took the money out. So Who Stole My Pension? There's 2 authors. One is myself, and I cover what's called defined contribution pensions, which are 401ks and IRAs. The second author is Ted Siddell. He is a former SEC attorney, And he got sick and tired of watching these people, the Wall Street, the labor union guys, as well as many other people, stealing workers' pensions. So he became a whistleblower, and he is now the #1 whistleblower in America. I think his last payout was something like $34 or $40 million. He's a great guy, Ted Siddell, the second author, so we cover both defined benefit and defined contribution. And when you read Who Stole My Pension, you'll understand why defined contribution, the pension for firefighters, teachers, and police officers, is going to bring down the 401k. Now, this is all good news for people like me who are gold and silver fanatics.
And I think that's a really good point you bring up, Robert, because, I know so many people who are afraid to go to the ATM and close their eyes when they get the receipt to know how much money is in my bank. But, is that kind of the first step to take, is understand, how much you have in your pension, what you should be contributing. Don't be afraid of these numbers.
Well, I think the first thing, obviously, because I want to sell some books here, is
Buy the
that
book.
if you read Who Stole My Pension, it'll make your blood boil. It's because read the back cover of the book. Again, Ted is an SEC attorney, and he got sick and tired of the looting. So he has sued over $1 trillion worth of pension funds money. So that's why he's the biggest whistleblower around. I'm kind of afraid to stand next to him because someone might kill us, But he's treading on some very big toes. So when you read Who Stole My Pension, he writes about how they steal it out of the Teamsters, firefighters, pilots. And I was going to be a pilot. Thank God I didn't fly for United Airlines because they stole their pension too.
So again, here it's not only there's not enough funding to cover all these different national pensions, they're actually stealing them at the same time. This is new news because I didn't even take that into consideration. Definitely finished watching the rest of this video. Didn't want to make this whole video on his video, but it's definitely worth your attention. Gotta think things do differently. 2020 is here. We don't have that much more time, and these things may seem like when they do crash and collapse, they seem like it's all of a sudden, but it really isn't. It's been booming, and when I mean just brewing up for a while. If this video has been any value to you, please subscribe, leave some comments, and until my next video, I'm out.